I call the meeting to order. This is a scheduled, called and convened workshop for the purpose of the budget discussion. We are expecting others to join us, but for the sake of time and efficiency, we're going to go ahead and get started. I certainly don't have as lengthy a comments as I started the last meeting or workshop with. But did want to share with council and with others. We did have people that either watched this live or have watched it since we gathered last time, because I've gotten several notes from people that were impressed with the process, and we're going to suggest that either as whoever was sending it, mayor or our city administrator, that they were going to see about doing something similar for their city as well too. And so we got some good feedback. Did have one gentleman that made a very special request. He is a resident here of the city, and he asked that the members of council please move their microphones closer to their mouth, or their mouth closer to their microphones, one or the other. He said that he couldn't hear some of the comments, but he enjoyed the presentations and whatnot. So we will, if you would, please try and be attentive of talking into the microphone. We engage in this process, and sometimes as we dig into this, we don't appreciate sometimes the situation that we were in. One of the mayors that sent me a note included a newspaper article about a city in the lower part of the state whose city administrator presented their budget to them. A $10 million budget with a $2 million deficit. To say the least, was not balanced. They've got some work ahead of them, and I don't hesitate to say that there are probably some others that are in similar situations, maybe not to that extent, but you know, as we go through this, we need to be appreciative of the work that our staff has done, not only to craft this budget, but the ones that we have had through the past and how we have built on that. And the fact that as you look through this, we are well positioned to serve our citizens in an effective manner. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the administrator.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Council, thanks for being here today. As far as the microphones go, yeah, that from a recording standpoint, I think it is important that we be attentive to that. I distinctly recall as a child being drug out of church by my ear and my mother asking me if I learned to whisper in a sawmill. So I don't think you're going to have that problem for me. And if Mike has the opportunity to speak, I know for a fact you will not have that opportunity. You won't have that issue out of Mike. But thank you for being here. I do want to tee up today's conversation. If you've not seen the mayor's email this morning and some forwarded emails, which I subsequently sent to staff about the rate of growth in South Carolina, specifically in Greer. The mayor and I were talking before the meeting. We are now, I believe, the 17th fastest growing city in the United States with a population under 50,000 people. And at that rate, we will not be, according to the Census Bureau, under 50,000 for long. I think right now, functionally, we are above that mark. And as the housing study showed on Tuesday night, we have a number of growth-related challenges before us over the next few years. So with that, I'm going to start off today's meeting with a thank you again to y'all for being here, making time today in the middle of the day to pay attention to this, and let's get into a little bit of detail. But also I want to thank first Chris and his team, Mike, Reno, and Katrina for their diligence going through these budgets line by line. But even more to the point, as I mentioned when we talked about the revenues last week, how it's an iterative process that begins from the bottom of every department, and it's a collaboration of efforts. So with that, you're going to hear from police, fire, and public services today, and some of their support staff and command staff that are here, and they will be available for specific questions as you have them. And you may see a few new faces. I think the chiefs will certainly introduce their teams today. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Hamby and let him roll with his presentation. And again, this is an iterative process, so if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to ask. Chief, it's all you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Appreciate the opportunity to present before you today. We're going to present some highlights of our requested budget proposal. We definitely don't bring before you to talk about on purpose our entire budget, but we are here and prepared to answer any questions that you may have of us. So I would like to introduce who we have with us today. Of course, myself, Matt Hamby. We have our two captains, Captain Scott Ellis, Captain Eric Presley, and also Meredith Gala, who's really the boss of the organization. But between the four of us, we feel very prepared, hopefully, to answer any questions. And if there's something really detailed that we need to follow up on, we'll be glad to do that and provide that at a later time if it's convenient for you. And of course, this is your workshop, not mine. So as I present, I'd absolutely welcome interruptions as you feel is appropriate, and if you need us to elaborate on something, more than happy to do that. Before I get started, in the beef of the presentation, I did want to point out that this week is National Police Week, and the purpose of National Police Week is to honor those officers in the United States who have fallen in the line of duty. And so this whole week is kind of set aside on a national basis to recognize those, but also to thank those who continue to serve in current time. And with that, here's a photo of Willis Foster. Willis Foster is the only Greer police officer to die in the line of duty. And that occurred in 1904. And the story has it that Officer Foster was chasing some bootleggers in a foot chase close to the intersection of what is now Poinsett and Main Street near the Wayside Hotel. And during that foot pursuit, he was shot and killed. And I do believe the story continues on that 3 people were later arrested at a later time, and they were taken to trial, and they were found not guilty. So that case was never fully brought to closure. Mr. Foster, I believe, had that uniform on that day and had his photo taken. He was very proud of it, and that was the same day he was killed, by the way. All right. The presentation has basically four parts, and we hope we tell a story with these 4 sections of the presentation. So I hope that you will see towards the end that we keep coming back to the themes of training, response, prevention, and efficiency. As our city continues to grow, we're being extremely thoughtful and strategic of how we plan for the future, how we plan to handle new challenges, and to be great stewards of our public dollars. So the first section will be a review of the structure of our police department, and I think for some of you that might be news, but others it might be a good review. But as I go through how the department is broken down briefly, I think it'll help you appreciate at least the breadth and the amount of different things we have to handle on a 24-hour basis. Secondly, we'll go over a few highlights of our performance in 2025, look at some data. Thirdly, we will talk about some recent budget successes that we've had over the last few years and how we put those to use. Again, focusing on training, response, prevention, and efficiency. And finally, we'll hit a few highlights of our budget request for fiscal year 27. Structure of our department. So this is our command staff. So in addition to me, as I introduce you to our two captains here, each of our two captains is over a bureau. In each of our bureaus has two divisions that report to the bureau. So I'll start explaining on the left. We have Captain Presley, who's over the two divisions, the administrative division and operational support division, and Captain Ellis is over the patrol division and criminal investigations division. All right, dig a little bit deeper into the administration division, what they cover. That includes our records team. The administrative division handles all of our recruiting and hiring processes that take a lot of their effort. It's a nonstop process. Fleet management, again, a really big job. Not only the cars, but it's also the helping facilitate getting cars repaired, repairing electronic equipment and camera equipment and communications equipment. Also, the administrative division is responsible for the training process of our department, and that includes new hire training, new hire orientation, initial field training, and continuing training throughout the careers of our staff. Community outreach reports to this division as well. All of our school resource officers, and there's 10 of those. Our crisis intervention program, crisis intervention officer, crime analysis, equipment and uniform handling and management. Secondly, our operational support division. The detention center is under this division, and we have a staff of 9 people who run our detention center. We're one of the few cities in South Carolina who has their own detention center, by the way. But the reason that is a really good thing for us here, that county line goes right through our city, as you well know. So we have to deal with both detention centers, Greenville and Spartanburg. So having this facility is literally priceless to us. Otherwise, we would be transporting prisoners in both directions all the time, putting them in on temp orders, making sure we bring them back for their bond hearings. But having this detention center allows us to park them here until they have their bond hearing, and then they'll move on to wherever they need to go or be released. Most people get released within that first 24 hours. Also, our property evidence function, court security, animal control, towing services, and our telecommunications center. Dig a little bit deeper into our telecommunications center here. You may or may not be aware that our telecommunications center is a very busy place. It's right here as soon as you walk in the front door off Main Street to the left. It's behind the other, the window room that you will see there in the lobby. And so we dispatch not only for Greer Police Department, but we also dispatch for Greer Fire Department, Bowling Springs Fire Department, Taylor's Fire Department, Pelham Batesville, and parts of Tiger River, Holly Springs, Clear Springs, and Lake Cunningham. All right, moving on to our Operations Bureau, our Uniform Patrol Division. This is the largest in terms of number of people, and it has approximately 40 people that work in this unit. This division consists of 5 separate teams. 4 of these teams work 12-hour shifts. Then the 5th team, which is called the Echo Team, works varying schedules based on workload demand. Our Echo Team consists of officers who work in specialized assignments such as traffic and canine. And finally, our Criminal Investigations Division. Currently, they're staffed with a commander, a sergeant, 7 detectives, 2 victim advocates, and an administrative assistant. Our detectives have individually specific areas that they investigate. For example, we have investigators that focus specifically on crimes against persons, and then others may have their own specialty like property crimes investigations, economic crimes, sex crimes, vice and narcotics. We have a Safe Neighborhoods program which focuses specifically on gun crimes and gangs. And also we have 2 victim advocates as well. We have 2 of those detectives are assigned to the Greenville County Drug Enforcement Unit. You may or may not remember some of this as we formulated that unit back in 2019. But all of the municipalities and the sheriff's office and the solicitor's office in Greenville County, we combined our resources that work in narcotic and vice investigations into one unit. Although they are still employed by Greer PD, they follow our policies, our rules, and we still manage them as employees, but they do their daily work out of the office in Greenville, and they work on larger scale vice concerns, vice investigations. They do a tremendous job, by the way, of handling any kind of smaller requests that come out of our city. So it is a force multiplier. Whenever we've had issues that have been passed on to us about a concern about a certain house or location, maybe there's some drug dealing going on, I just pass it on to the DEU and they put people on it. So they've done a really good job. We didn't lose anything from them working in there.
Chief Hamby?
Yes.
How do we handle the Spartanburg County side, that type of thing, with that collaboration and teamwork on the Greenville side?
That's a good question. So the agreement we have, the mutual aid agreement, allows, we're basically extending the authority of those that work in that unit to cover the Spartanburg side of Greer as well. But even if that was an issue, even if it was an issue, as long as one of our Greer investigators are a part of that, they can bring whoever they need with them.
Got it.
Do Greenville and Spartanburg have a similar agreement, or?
They have mutual aid agreements, but usually most counties just kind of handle what's in there. Now, if they have an investigation that bleeds over into other jurisdictions, law enforcement's really good about reaching out and working together. Because, drug, especially when it comes to drug sales, drug trafficking, they don't have boundaries. They travel up and down the highways and roads, and they go from one city to another city. And so those crimes are mobile. They move around, and sometimes hundreds of miles away. So a lot of cooperation is very important when it comes to that. We have an emergency response team, and they focus mostly on high-risk operations. We currently have 15 members on that team. 12 of those are entry or perimeter specific, and we have 2 snipers and 1 tactical EMT. By the way, this unit trains at least 1 full day each month, and I believe they do a half day on some of those other months. They do training at nighttime and daytime as well. We have a drone team. Currently, I believe we have 10 certified drone operators, and they help in a lot of different ways. We use them for safety overwatch of our officers when they're responding to calls. We've used them for missing person searches, and that's not only kids, but we've had people with dementia who've disappeared from some of our institutions or homes, and we've been able to search wide areas pretty efficiently with the use of the drones. They also help with fleeing suspect apprehension, response asset arrival to the crime scene documentation for the PD and fire department. And they've also helped in a very creative way recently when we've had a tremendous amount of auto break-ins in apartment complexes. In the middle of the night, we've been able to do a lot of extra patrol instead of on foot or by a car, by this loud police car rolling into the parking lot. And by the time the police officer is able to drive into the parking lot, if you've got someone possibly actively trying to rummage through cars, all they got to do is duck and hide. They can't see or hear that drone. So we've been able to extra patrol three apartment complexes in like 15 minutes with it's a very efficient tool. And I'll talk more about our drone program towards the end of my presentation. Here's a staffing overview over the last 5 years. So fiscal year 22, we had a total of 91 on staff, and that includes our sworn and our non-sworn employees. And as you can tell, in fiscal year 26, this year, we have 108. The positions we've added in the sworn side, we've added a captain, a community outreach corporal, safe neighborhoods detective, crisis intervention officer, downtown officer, neighborhood engagement officer, and a recruiting sergeant. We've also added 4 positions that were grant funded. They were reimbursed 100% by the state of South Carolina, and one of them was from District 5 schools. So we did those 4 SROs also. And then non-sworn employees that we've added a records manager, a terminal agency coordinator in our dispatch staff, a detention supervisor, telecommunications supervisor, and a professional standards manager. Here's a financial overview over the past 5 years for Greer PD. The most significant increases have been in the personnel category, as you can see. And admittedly, there's a significant, so you can see the last year on the right is fiscal year 27 proposal. So there is a bump that we are requesting, and we'll talk about that more in just a minute. All right, at this time I'll go over 2025, just a couple of highlights of some of our performance and accomplishments. This is a data chart of activity over the past 8 years. So our call volume, it's a lot of numbers there, I understand that, but the call volume has increased by 28% since 2018. Arrests have fluctuated throughout the COVID time, but this past year, 2025, was the highest year of arrests in our history, as well as citations and warnings issued by our police officers. It's also the highest number ever recorded, especially in the last 8 years.
Can you comment on that?
Yes.
From 2018 to 2024, you're fairly consistent, and then 2025, as you just said, is a massive jump in not only calls, but I
Yep.
mean, across the board, all categories.
So my best stab at that, and it's probably more than a stab, I would give it more credit than that, but I believe our staffing numbers have stabilized a bit. So if you have fewer cops, you can't help, there's going to be fewer arrests because the proactivity slows down. Because if we have lower staff numbers, we're having to work through trying to hire people, and when you hire people, and you finally get them certified through the academy and you put them on the road to start doing some field training, you have to pair them up with an experienced training officer. So that does 2 things. Number one, you don't have a trained officer trained up yet. So they're working slow, they're learning. And our training officers had to basically back off from that high efficiency, high performer role that they usually play. And they're having to slow down and train people that know very little about the job. So when you're having to fill a position, you're literally having to slow down about the quantity of 2 officers until you get that new officer up and going. So, when we have those down years of staffing, and we've had them, especially down around 2018, 19, and 20, that was a rough patch for us, and it's hard to recover. It takes a long time, and your data will take a blow. It just happens. So I feel like we've stabilized a little bit on the retention side. So that's some good news to report. For the last 2024, 25, things have sort of started to stabilize a little bit. And again, we still have openings. We still have people that come and go. That'll never stop. But instead of, 3 or 4 at a time, it's just 1 here, 1 there, 1 there, that kind of thing.
Matt, on
Yes.
the calls for service, does that include the FD?
No, sir. These are going to be responses to a call. So this is not a phone call into dispatch. This is anytime a police officer is logged in, taking action on a police call. So we have a completely set of numbers that we do track for fire. I didn't bring those with me, but we bring those to our monthly report that you get it with council. And I'm sure the fire chief can speak on that as well.
You have, what was it, 40 patrolmen responding to?
So, yeah, and that would include supervisors and everything, yeah.
So 40,000 calls for 40 officers.
And we haven't picked up the
Average
habit
of 2
of
something a day. If they work
advising people who call 911 and say, hey, a particular crime has happened. and on the scale of crimes, it's a low-end crime. I know counties will say, well, we'll just take a report over the telephone. Do we,
We generally, I say generally, because it's not an absolute, but we generally do not take reports over the phone. For a couple of reasons. Number one, accuracy, reliability of what's being given to us, but also level of service, I think. So I think there's tremendous value in us being able to have face-to-face contact. And it's not only to provide a better service, but I think that exchange of information in person, I think a higher quality investigation can occur. And there's just a lot of obvious reasons. It's just better.
well, I'm
Now-
glad we continue to do
Now,
that.
I know over time, that there could be a day where we have to make some tough decisions, and I don't think we're there right now. But I do think one day, that is a possibility. And some departments have had some success on some very minor things, that they might want to report. But, like lost property, that kind of thing. It's not really a crime involved where we're going to have to investigate and arrest somebody. But, so anyway, that's something right now, we're not doing those in general. Now, sometimes people are not able to come to the police department. So we'll make some exceptions sometimes and at their request, if they want to do a phone report and it's something that we can handle. Sometimes it's someone out of town. They may own a rental house. Hey, I'm in Kentucky. I can't be there, but I want to report a crime.
Right.
So
but-
that kind of
but
thing.
Overall, we're sending an officer out.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yep. And this is a line graph of how calls for service have changed since 2015. So this one goes further back in time. As you can see, the increased calls for service we went from 26,649, and then this past year we were 41,159. So that's a 54% increase from 2015. And that trend line is moving up. We had quite a few community outreach events that we ran this past year. I'll just go through these really quickly. Fist Bump Fridays, Girls on the Run, Dunbar Transportation Day, Coffee with Cops events, Pops with Cops, Greer Police Youth Summer Camp, Greer Housing Authority Neighborhood Block Parties, National Night Out, Trunk or Treat, Backpack School Supply Giveaway, Memorial Softball Tournament, and our largest one that we do every year, of course, is Cops for Tots. And also, a massive accomplishment for our department in 2025 was officially being awarded law enforcement accreditation by the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies, also known as CALEA. And it is important to point out that there's only 807 CALEA accredited law enforcement agencies in the United States. And there's over 18,000 law enforcement agencies in America. So that's something for us to be very proud of. And by the way, Captain Presley, who's with us, took the brunt of a lot of the legwork and the organization and the leadership of making that happen. So he did that while doing his rest of his duties, which is basically a Herculean task, if you ask me. We've been told that can't be done, and we did find out that it's not sustainable. So we did add our professional standards manager this current budget year. So we got a really good one on staff, and I'll probably bring that up in a minute as well.
How many
But-
other
Yes.
CALEA recognized agencies are there in South Carolina?
Actually, South Carolina is as a state, does really well. So I cannot remember the number, but I'm going to take a stab at it, Captain, but it might be 15 or so.
I would imagine, yeah.
It's somewhere around 15.
We were one of just a few in Greenland-Spartanburg counties that were not, so, and that was
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. So South Carolina's pretty strong in it, but
Meredith says 16.
16. 16 across the entire state. And I think that includes sheriff's offices and municipal police as well.
Okay.
By the way, we have our first annual review for CALIA coming up this August. So that's just right around the corner, and we're already working hard on getting that done. All right, so I want to share with you a few recent budget successes. So I'm looking back just a few years, maybe a handful of years, at some great things that this council has approved, that we have requested, and we've taken these dollars that you have approved and put them to really good use. And so I just want to share some good feedback to you. Again, getting back to our drone program, we started that in 2019. We started it very, very small, and we've added and grown that program over time. Our goal is to continue to use drones to improve efficiency and increase our response capabilities. And I will have a upcoming budget request I'll speak of right here at the end of my presentation. We currently have one basically a workhorse drone that we have. It is a DJI Matrice M30. It has a really nice drone, and but it's pretty much the drone that we use. We do have a smaller indoor drone that we use for clearing houses when that situation is needed. So it's specifically made to fly indoors and get into small places. We also have two other drones that we use for training purposes. All right, back in fiscal year 24, we created the Crisis Intervention Officer position, and council approved this request. The purpose of this position is to increase response efficiency and thoroughness in how we respond to incidents that involve persons in crisis. For the last few years, we noticed that our patrol officers were responding to calls where we had to deal with persons who were dealing with drug overdoses, homelessness, or mental illness. And for the average uniformed police officer, those options that they have in their toolbox were few. Oftentimes, they found arresting the person was one of the remaining few options they had. But we kept having to return back to the same locations over and over and dealing with the same persons with the same problems. And arresting them was not fixing the problem. Now, I'm not saying that arrest is not the answer. It's sometimes it just needs to happen, and we do that. But after we studied various agencies from across the nation on how they have developed a crisis response team, we created an idea of creating a specific position to assign full-time in Greer to primarily follow up on many of these calls. And this is Officer Mike Farrell here. Mike and I talked about this concept for about 2 years before we actually put it into action. And Mike has a personal passion to this. He's got, and I'll just throw it out there, he has someone that is close to him and somewhere in his family that has had a struggle in one of these areas. So Mike is a superhuman being, a really good guy. He was one of our sergeants and over one of our teams. Mike voluntarily took a step down. He said, I know this position is not a supervisor position, but I believe in this, so I want to do it. And so he's taken off, and he's doing tremendous things. So he's created a network of agencies he works with in our community. He's not out trying to provide the service himself. We are not social services, but we are trying to connect people and get them introduced to the places where people can help them. So in regards to mental health, we are partnering with Greater Greenville Mental Health, and that includes the Greer Memorial Hospital, Spartanburg County Mental Health, the Mobile Crisis Team, Carolina Center for Behavioral Health, Gateway Clubhouse, Prisma Health, ER. And when it comes to the addiction issues, we have partnered with the Forrester Center, Evans Training Center, Celebrate Recovery, church groups in various places. Regarding homelessness, he's worked with Daily Bread Ministries, Greer STEP Transitional Housing Program, Greer Relief, Greer Community Ministries, Indigo Hope, Miracle Hill Men's Shelter in Greenville and Spartanburg, and Shepherd's Gate Women's Shelter.
Matt, would you go back?
Yes.
One slide, one before that. Mental health, yes. There's a lot of agencies there, which is good. How is that you know, if we talk about years past, and you and I have had the same conversation, that if you go out and see an individual, they're really not, they don't need to be going to jail, but they don't need to be where they are right now. They need to have somebody look at them, and there was agencies that we take custody of the people, take them to those facilities, and then go from there. Is this, with this long list that you have, does that handle the demand?
I'll say that we have learned to work with what we have. And I am sure there's always a need for something more. And for me to be able to dig really deep into that subject matter, I'd probably need to talk with Officer Farrell about it, like where is he not getting what he needs. But he's learned, just like police officers do, we learn the processes and the challenges that are involved, and we try to take advantage of what we can. So Mike Farrell has a very good skill, and that's communication. So a lot of times he's able to sit down and have a very long conversation and talk through with the person in crisis. I can hook you up. Like, you just need to go. You need to agree to go, when in the past they have not agreed to do that. And so he's been able to convince a lot of people, and that's where he's just really good at doing that. So we can only take people into custody and like take them for, if they're in immediate danger to themselves or someone else. Like, we can articulate why someone is physically in immediate danger. Those are the criteria. So it makes it difficult for us to just, pick somebody up and put them down in front of a service provider. We have to have, we can either convince them or we have to forcefully take them, but we can only forcefully take them in certain circumstances. So I don't know if that provided an answer or not.
Well, I'm just, the reason why, and we've talked about it at the council level, I've talked about it with you and the mayor and myself and the administrator have been trying to figure a way out how to just, first of all, identify our homeless population. The mental health and the addiction categories are just, I think they're a subgroup of homeless. A lot of them are. And it's funny, there are groups that are supposed to provide information to us. They don't. But anyway, I see the homeless issue becoming more of a burden on our resources. And I'm really not talking about the people who they've had a traumatic event in their life. Those folks probably won't remain on the homeless rolls long, and we have agencies that really step up and help. It's just these other two subcategories that I think that's where we're going to have, and we will provide more and more services. I know that we've had homicides. We've had people just die from exposure. We have fires that started all of this. And I get, as we're in the budget process, I think that especially administration, PD, and FD need to working on a solution because it can't. I don't know how many calls you guys respond to that's mental health or addiction / homelessness, but I think that's going to be, it is a demand on services. It will continue to be more and more of a demand. So just that, I guess I'm throwing that out there just to say, hey, we need to be proactive and try to figure out something.
Sir.
I have a question for probably more for staff than anything. Actually, the very first meeting I ever attended, although I love Clemson, we gave some of the opioid settlement funds to Clemson.
Oh, yeah.
Is there a way to use that for,
No,
I don't know what the limitations are on that opioid settlement.
well, what
Money
happens, I can answer that.
Okay.
Because we had reached out to some folks at Clemson. They got us directed to the people that could help us do that particular study. And they'd come up with kind of a plan, but then it just takes funding. And so
I understand that. I'm asking more, where can we use those funds?
Let's,
basically,
if you would, Ms. Woodruff, talk a little bit about that pot of money and how it has to be used, because there are very specific qualifications for that program. Dan, all the way how that, has to be used and all that sort of thing. So give us an overview of that, please.
Yes, there's a handful of categories that it can be used for, and it's a two-step process. So if we have an applicant that comes and we think it's feasible, we bring it before council to approve. That's step one. Once you approve it, it gets sent to the state scoreboard, and they have to approve it as well. So the one from Clemson that you all approved was not approved by the scoreboard.
It was what?
Was not approved by the scoreboard.
Thank you.
Okay.
Glad they did something right.
Well, I think moving forward,
He's got better numbers on homeless right now.
it'd be advantageous to have the PD and FD involved, maybe with the rest of those funds.
Yeah, I do actively ask them if there's any needs that they have. So we do consult in-house before we, look for outside agencies to support.
Okay, great.
Thank you. All right, Chief.
Fiscal year 2025, we were approved by council for the purchase of a new truck for our emergency response team. And this truck will be a 16-foot box-style truck, and will seat up to 12 personnel in the rear portion of the truck. And we're going to use this to be able to safely deliver our personnel during high-risk incidents, and could be used in rescue operations if that need were to occur. This truck will be, it's being custom built, and so it's a very lengthy process. It's taken a little bit longer than we had hoped, actually, but it will be fully armored, and so it'll be an incredible resource for our department. Fiscal year 26, that's this current year that we're finishing up here, we implemented a new position approved in our budget for recruiting sergeant. As you may be aware, there has been a national law enforcement recruiting crisis that has been developing over the last 7 or 8 years. So beginning with numerous high-profile incidents that occurred across the nation, excessive national media and social media narratives have unfortunately discouraged many young people from entering our profession. So retention also became a bigger challenge after 2020 Memorial Day, if you can remember the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis. Absolutely, that affected us even here. Everywhere across America, cops started getting out of the profession and fewer people were applying to come in. And it's taken us quite a while to move that needle, but so we've had to really focus a lot harder on recruiting and retention as well. So we realized after trying everything else, we needed a full-time position, and council did approve that, obviously. So Sergeant Kaylin Richards has been in that role since January of this year, and she has hit the ground running, and she's doing a fabulous job. And we know for a fact that at least 15 applicants have shown up and become part of our hiring process, or at least applicant process, who were people that she cast in her net, so to speak. So she's doing a fabulous job, and I think we're going to really be able to see some changes in our ability to retain and recruit as well.
Chief, just out of
Yes.
curiosity, I don't want to get us off track again, but I wondered, are we seeing a lot of young new graduates, career changers, officers moving from other areas of the country potentially? I'm just curious about that trend, where you're getting the applicants from. where she's-
So we're still having a lot of luck digging into the college classroom and getting to know some of the students who are hopefully planning to start a career. But we're also working on a plan to kind of go a little bit deeper into the timeline and go like talk to high school kids. But one thing she's able to do with having her full focus on this function is she's able to keep in touch with the people who might be on the hook or they're thinking about getting hooked by an agency. So I think that ability, that bandwidth she has to stay in contact and reach out and check on them and encourage them and bring them in and set up ride-alongs, we've actually been able to increase our interest significantly in internships. So in the past, we usually can only take on about 3 at a time. In the past, it's usually been, oh, you want to be an intern? Okay, here's some paperwork. Here's your start date. Well, now we're going to have to introduce a selection process because it's going to be competitive now. So we're now going to be selecting interns based on their potential for being an employee. So instead of helping them just get college credit, we're actually trying to turn it and use it to our advantage. So anyway, so she's doing a fabulous job. I'm really proud of her. Also, in this current budget year, I mentioned earlier about the success we've had with becoming accredited. Well, we now have a full-time professional standards manager. This is a non-sworn position. And by the way, I want to make a commentary on CALEA. CALEA is the gold standard for police policies, police standards. And they've been developed and refined for many, many years. And it is really good to know that we are meeting those standards and we're getting that stamp of approval from CALEA that we're constantly in compliance. This person that we've hired in this role we got really lucky. This person happens to be probably one of the best ones in South Carolina and has been doing this for quite a few years. And so we got her from one of our neighboring agencies, and she's already getting us on the road to continuing our CALEA adventure, or our accreditation adventure. So we're going to, we have goals of becoming accredited through the state association, but also earning CALEA advanced accreditation. And there's even fewer and fewer of those agencies. And one day I hope that we can get our communications center accredited as well. And there's not very many of those around. That photo there, I just wanted the record to reflect, Ms. Duncan, that those two men on the end of that photo are 6'10". So,
One of them's an NBA player,
yeah.
or was.
Also, a really historic win for the police department as it relates to resources that City Council provides is the Public Safety Training Center. And it will be the center of development for our staff, not just as they are hired, but to enhance their professional development throughout their career. We believe that the development of our people leads to competent officers carrying out their duties in a professional manner. This prepares our people to be most ready to respond to crime incidences and help keep our communities safe. The training center will be the place to host training from outside vendors who are leading experts in their fields, as well as providing internal training that we develop within our own agency. And I personally want to use this facility to help leverage that with recruiting and retention as well. I think that'll be priceless.
I was going to ask, to that same point, you said we're doing a lot in the college classrooms. Could we partner with some of the more local schools and use that facility as well for that?
We're gonna see what's available out there, absolutely. So we have some really good contacts within some of the colleges in the area, And actually, some of those professors are kind of pushing students to Greer PD. So we do have that ability to form those relationships and expand them.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so finally, the requested items, and these are just highlights. I picked a couple of the bigger items, and we'll be glad to talk about anything else regarding our budget request. First of all, personnel. These are positions that we did request and have passed the litmus test of our budget committee, who does a fabulous job, by the way. First of all, two telecommunicators. We absolutely need 3 persons on each particular shift to handle the workload for our police department and the 4 fire departments that we serve on a full-time basis. With 4 12-hour teams, that means we need 12 people at minimum who are always at work. Well, we realize that doesn't always happen. You've got people who have to take vacation, they're sick, they might go away for training, they quit, and then we've got to advertise, try to hire somebody and train them, which takes months. So we have a lot of vacancies. And currently, right now, so we call that a shift relief factor. That's a term that's out there. And so you realize if you need to maintain a minimum of X number of people, you can't, and those people have to always be present. And when you run a 24-hour operation, it's different because you can't just come in later, whatever. You have to have people there. So to have 12, you really need more than 12 because right now we have 8 because people leave. And it is really, really hard to hire people to do this job. First of all, most people are not, I couldn't do it. Okay, my brain's not wired to do that job. So you have to have people whose brains are wired to do that job that way and can handle the environment you're working in. You're working in a contained room with nowhere to go. And you have major shifts in activity, your brain activity, so you're sitting still for a minute or two, and then all of a sudden a tragedy occurs, and then you got to be accurate. Your margin of error is very, very, very small. So we need 2 more. I mean, we really need a staff of 16 to do this job. It has grown and grown and grown. The call volume has increased over the years, and we do, I believe, have a request from our fire department to add Lake Cunningham as a full service fire department that's served by our communications center, and he can elaborate if that comes up more better than I can. But so we want to provide that service, but here we are. We're stuck with 8 people. We have 8 people right now fully functioned and trained, doing the job of 12. So it's like basically trying to climb up a mud hill. You're always trying to get to the 12, and if you do if you're at 12, it doesn't stay for long. And so reality is real. We need to have a staff of 16. So we're hoping we can make some progress and go from 12 to 14. So we have two telecommunicators requested in this budget.
Chief,
Yes.
do we fully fund all those positions, or do some of those other places help?
We have some agreements, and Dorian may have to help me a little bit, but I believe Bowling Springs and Taylor's and Chris pitch in and actually contribute to that.
Yes, sir. So some of the other fire departments do contribute to that. Some of it is direct and some of it's indirect, meaning we have contracts with some departments, and that's also included as part of that overall package. But yes, we do. When we brought on the 4 departments or the other departments that they brought on full-time, we brought on 4 additional dispatchers at that time. And the idea there was, in the very beginning, we split that 4 different ways. City being 25% and each of the others being 25%.
While both chiefs are up, earlier this year or the end of last year, there was some discussion at the county level about a consolidated dispatch. Any news on that?
Not that I'm aware of. Right now, they've been more focused on consolidation of fire departments.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question for you. It is a I've been in that room. I'm with you. There's zero chance I could do that job. Let's say, I'm going to give a not so great hypothetical, but let's say something major occurred in the city and 4 of those people decided, I'm done today. Are there outsourcing resources or anything that you could, I mean, how would you respond to something like that?
Okay, I like those. I don't like that one, but
I mean, well, I mean,
I like the exercise. But-
yeah.
So I would, my first calls would be to neighboring agencies in Greenville County specifically, because we all operate off of the same CAD network.
Okay.
And we all use the same codes that we, speak and communicate with. And those CAD setups are very, very similar. They're not always identical, but those concepts. So that the knowledge they have to do their job, it would translate very quickly to be able to adjust to what we're doing. So we would be reaching out to other departments and trying to contract and pay people to come in as they are available.
Okay.
We can also ask for the other 911 centers around the county to pick up some slack, correct?
It's difficult to just reroute some calls and not others.
I know on
Is
the
that-
fire side is probably a lot easier, but let me, Matt, I understand the need for additional dispatchers because of the increase in call volume. Have you done any kind of, I thought about this on one of the slides, but as our population increases, our density increases, with the increase in the calls for service, if you tracked out by a certain date how many folks in communications we're going to have, or right now, is this let's see, your current authorized staff is 12 plus 2, so 14 folks. And you say that that's not enough, we need how many more, 2 more?
We need a lot more than 2.
Okay, so
Yep.
that's my question.
Yep.
The more that you need, have you translated that out onto some sort of estimate as to when, okay, well, we've got to have X to get us current, and then as population continues to grow, we need to be adding folks as we go along, based on population, based on whatever.
So I think, yes, sir. I think that's going to be I think we do need to do a workload analysis that digs deep into the relationship between population and call volume, because they're not always they don't always track on the same pathway. So if we look at just population growth, I mean, that's a good start. I think that gives you a place to look, like, if we're 53,000 today, what if we're, 63,000? What does that look like? So I do think that, I mean, we know right now, I know our supervisor of communications, she's told me that some numbers that she has run from some standards available through NINA, that we need at minimum 16 right now, is what she says. And so, but the field 16, if you literally account for shift relief factor, that could be up to 1.4 persons per one position.
Sure.
So, 16 times 1.4. And, so how far do you want to take this? But, we kind of have lived for a long time stretching as much as we can and milking our people for all we can get out of them. So, that's kind of been what we do, so.
Mr. Aaron,
Yes.
I would like to add also, as important as everything that Chief Hamby is saying, specific to the staffing issue, we will run up against space.
Well, that's what I was
Yeah,
going to bring
that
that
was-
up.
That's a natural thing, and so for every dispatch point at the PSAP, we're going to have to consider what the long-term viability of the space
So,
is.
so is it in our thinking about a new communication center?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
The chief-
With-
Both the chiefs and I have had this discussion.
Okay, and are in the thinking, I guess we're talking about splitting dispatch for fire and police. I know the way Matt has broken it down is fine, and it's all factual, but just to help understand this, a lot of the numbers that we see, say Taylor's and Boiling Springs and Lake Cunningham, that's a part of taking us to the next level but thinking outside the box, because a lot of that dispatch that we're doing is for areas that are in the city but maybe are under contract with some of these departments, and then it becomes, I think that's where you probably see a lot of the call volume for these other departments. So whether they're on board or not, we still have the call volume. And so at some point, we're going to have to think about a new room and more people. And
To that point, Mr. Airwood, one of the other things that we've discussed is obviously as our population grows, those calls for service are going to grow, which coincidentally means potential arrests are going to grow, which means our detention facilities are going to have to be addressed as well. So as part of a comprehensive analysis of space needs as it pertains not only to telecommunications, but to detention, that's going to be part of the longer-term discussion on all of Chief Hamby's specific needs.
And then now, at some point, I would assume we would break communications off into a separate department.
That, to answer that question, I've seen it work a number of ways. In my time in York County, it was its own separate department. In my time in Aiken County, it was under the sheriff's department. So everyone kind of handles it a little bit differently. It's been its own entity with some municipalities. 9 times out of 10, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, it usually falls into the police department because of the nature of
The NCIC is a problem.
Yeah, and I'll say this, as far as and it's not a slide to get anybody, it's just who you work for. And when you have one department dispatching for 2 or 3 other departments, whoever, in this case, it would be PD, that's the attention that they give to the radios. And I think we're to the, and that has gone on forever and a day, ever since I can recall in 1983. But I think it is important that we do that analysis, because we have done very well in handling our growth, managing it, and doing it some different ways. But at some point, it's our responsibility to be moving to the mark to where we're handling it all.
Yes, sir.
Very well.
One more question. Right, so under telecommunications, typically have insufficient staffing. Does that affect our CALEA reading?
Captain Presley, the expert in the room, gave me a no.
So specifically for telecommunications, but
So-
some of your other categories, I'm sure would
I
affect
will-
it, or is
I will
it
say-
strictly by standards?
I do know the fire service has a different answer because they have ISO that they, and so Dorian.
It does
Yep.
directly affect ISO ratings. So with ISO, there's, different components for different parts, and 10% of that comes from the dispatch. So
Okay.
it does affect that.
Is that just based on numbers or, manpower or?
It's based on several things. It's call processing times, the manpower versus the call volume, so your workload and all those kind of things. There's several different factors that go into that to create that overall score. But if you're looking at how it affects the overall ISO rating, and ultimately what you get is, we all talk about ISO 1, 2, 3, whatever, but behind that there's a score, and that score is anywhere from 0 to 100. It's actually 100, 105. There's actually some extra points there, but 100 scale. And 10% of that is communications.
Okay.
Council, I think, and this goes back to Mr. Airwood's line of questioning, and we just need to keep this in mind as we hear both these presentations. We have known for quite some time that we're going to have to address our fire headquarters, telecommunications center, police department, a number of things. And so that needs to be a part of these discussions and certainly future discussions. I know at a staff level, particularly at a staff level, these are ongoing all the time. And, we're working out of a 1970 building, right in the middle of our downtown for our police headquarters that we had to have a special truck made just to go in there. The night the telecommunications center, new communications center opened, it looked like Star Trek and plenty of room and all that kind of stuff. And now, I don't know that you can even squeeze that many staff in there. I mean, it's elbow to elbow now. So all of these things are going to require consideration as we move forward. And I can assure you from my conversations and meetings at the staff level, these are top of mind for our administrator and department heads.
You brought up a good point. Adding more telecommunicators, you would obviously need to create new stations as well for them to work at, right? Or is it still going to be I think it's 4,
So we
right?
have a capacity of 4 workstations. And so we currently, if we have 3 on duty at any time, there's 3 of the 4. But if someone is in a training mode, they usually use that 4th position for training purposes, but also in a telecommunications room, there's a lot of systems in there. And so something's always having to be repaired. And so they may have to move around. And so you need 1 or 2 extras, really. And so if we continue to grow and fill up even 16, which is a realistic request, I think, in the next 2 or 3 years, that is absolutely all of the room we have. We don't have any room for growth. There's nowhere else to go.
The other
Unless
thing
we
we
just-
need to consider in that same vein is, when we moved into this building 12, 13 years ago, they told us that we had, enough capacity for IT for the next 50 years. Well, here we are, 13 years later, and,
Same thing with the
so we've got to, for when we start talking about communications and headquarters and all those different kinds of things, it's just not the size of the building. It's, there's a lot of other factors that are going to go into those decisions as well, too.
All right. Move on to 1 detention officer is in our request. We currently have a staff of 8 plus the supervisor who run that facility. And again, we are now staffed at a level that just barely meets minimum. If we're fully staffed and if everybody shows up for work and nobody takes a vacation day and nobody gets sick and nobody quits. So we have had a long history of struggling to keep that staff full. And it just so happens to be, as we speak today, we do have 8, but we do know that is not likely to be assumed that will remain. We're also hoping to increase expand the services that unit provides. We want to be able to allow them to do more prisoner transporting to the county facilities, because when we have to take a police officer off the street to transport to, say, Spartanburg County, it depends on the time of day. It also depends if they're doing a prisoner count. Because they'll lock the place down and the officer could be stuck there for 2 hours easily. So, plus the drive time and the administrative time when you're there. So if you take an officer off of, let's say, Area 3, that's 1/3 of our city that doesn't have their assigned officer. I mean, the other ones will fill in and handle calls there, but, so that's what you're missing. You're missing, 1/4 of your coverage. So we hope that our detention staff can participate a lot more in those prisoner transports. They want to. And finally, a grant-funded school resource officer. So this would be funded 100%. It's actually reimbursement grant from the Department of Public Safety through the state of South Carolina. We have several other schools that we have under this same grant program. And this would fill in at Chandler Creek Elementary, which we currently do not have a full-time school resource officer there. And finally, we have a technology package that we are requesting. It's actually an enhancement and continuation of a technology package that we already have been using for several years now. So on the left is this package as it is today. This is through our vendor. The company name is Axon. They provide some very crucial pieces of equipment that we literally have to do our job. So our body-worn cameras, our in-car cameras, our cloud storage, our cloud-based storage for our video evidence and document evidence is called evidence.com. So they provide that service, and then also our tasers. So we're currently using what's called the Taser 7, Model 7. It's an Axon, all these are Axon products. And that contract is ending. It's a 5-year contract, so we've got to re-up that contract no matter what we do. And on the right is our proposed package, and it's called the Officer Safety Plan. And that would include a new contract for our body-worn cameras, our in-car cameras. It would provide unlimited cloud storage for evidence.com instead of just paying for what we use. It creates a new contract for Taser, and we would be upgraded to the Taser 10, the Axon Assistant Translation Service, by the way. That is it uses the body cam, and we've been testing this. They've allowed us a 30-day testing period so the officer can hit a button on their body cam, and it literally translates what they're saying and to the person that they're communicating with who's speaking a different language. It'll do it out loud, and it recognizes 50 languages. So our officers have fallen in love with this product because it allows them to continue working more efficiently on the spot, communicate with people who do not speak English fluently, and they don't have to stop what they're doing, get on the phone and call a language line and try to find an interpreter that speaks the language they're trying. So that is a very cumbersome process. This eliminates that. So that we've had really good luck with that so far. It also includes the Axon reports, Axon standards, FUSIS dashboard. I'll explain that a little bit more in a minute. VR training headsets, fixed ALPR cameras, by the way. That is, they have an Axon product that will allow us to place these cameras in a permanent fixture, 7 of them. And they capture license plates as cars pass by, so it creates a record if you're looking for a suspect that committed a crime. Also, a continuation of our drone program. I'll explain more about that in just a second with this next slide. All right, getting back to that Taser 10. So the enhanced new version that they have out, tremendous upgrade from the previous model. The range is a lot bigger. Instead of being able to fire the Taser 25 feet, this allows you to fire at 45 feet of accuracy. And instead of having 2 prongs that come out, I mean, you have the ability to shoot 10. So it's a much upgraded tool. The FUSIS dashboard. Really, it is a web-based map dashboard that allows us to bring all of camera assets in. We can watch live feed from our officers from their body cam on that dashboard. and we can deploy drones from this dashboard. And if we have any community cameras that someone wants to share with us, they can send it and connect it to our FUSIS dashboard as well. So this will be the future of us eventually when we hopefully are able to establish a real-time crime center. That is the hub of what that works off of. Right now, in this package, we're asking for, in this budget, FUSIS would be included, not all of the other things that need to happen for a real-time crime center, but it allows us to get started in this process and start implementing some of these tools in year one.
Yes, sorry to interrupt, but.
Yes.
The, as we continue to talk about our relationship with our neighboring municipalities and cities, are they using a similar program? Or should we be standardizing on something as an area, or?
So we do have a neighbor, Spartanburg Police Department. They are using this, and I visited that. They actually have a real-time crime center that's, and maybe one or two of you have been there, but they are doing extremely well and having great successes. And, you know, getting back to the FUSIS dashboard, that is a standard that's pretty much that's the leading product in America right now.
Okay, what
Yep.
about our neighbors to the west?
Oh, it's a national thing. This is
Greenville's using it as well?
I'm hearing that that's going to be implemented hopefully this next budget year as well.
Okay, excellent.
That's what I'm hearing. Yep.
Can you go back one slide?
Yes.
The proposed package, the ALPR cameras,
Yes.
and then you've got, is that 10 drones? The two?
No, no,
X-10 drones.
that's the model number,
Oh,
X10.
I got you.
Yeah, it
Yep.
threw me off with the 10
Yeah.
tasers. I was like,
Yeah.
you're gonna do 10
Is
tasers?
this like a cafeteria plan, or you have to buy the whole thing?
Yeah, it is a bundle. Yeah, and so the price,
Well, I'll tell you the reason I'm asking, and you mentioned license plate readers and stuff like that. My personal opinion, I don't like that. But I know that there's been issues across the country where you have the departments getting this information, and then as far as just the license plate, whose car registered to, so on and so forth, and then they sell it to advertisers or whoever, because that's, there's a value to it. So you're collecting information, and then it has a value, and, oh, well, that really helps offset some of this, and then they sell it. And they're in the places that it's happened, I haven't seen if it's, I don't think it's against their state law, but what do you know about that as far as the information collected?
so we only use this. We have a policy, by the way, on how to use this and when it's appropriate and when it's not. So if one of our staff members, one of our investigators or officers, if they need to do a search for a vehicle, they have to enter a case number. They have to be working on a case. So just like if they ran a criminal history, the same way. So that is information that they have to have a legitimate police function that they are carrying out. So there's no personal searches that go on or anything like that.
Well, but what I'm saying is that if they're going to go in and get historical footage, that means it has to be taken and stored, and I think that's where I think that's where the I guess the reasoning. Well, we've got this asset, and it's apparently, well, I don't know if it's covered by state law or not.
So the system that we're a member of, which they're all over the United States, is Flock. And so the system we have, that information rolls off after 30 days. So it's not even available. I mean, you have to use it pretty soon. And so if I wanted to look back something that happened in December, it's just not there. It's gone. So there's some guardrails in place on how that can be accessed. And, just even think about selling information, like, that's crazy. I wouldn't wouldn't even fathom that. I will point out, I believe I've become aware that there's been private LPRs out there from the insurance industry for years.
Yes.
And I didn't even know that. But, you know, and they might be more, and this is no commentary on them. I'm just saying an entity like that probably would be, if anybody's selling any data, it would probably be some industry like that. I don't know that they do, but law enforcement, I can't imagine how we would, or why we would ever want to do that. That's
Still because
yeah.
it's revenue.
Yeah.
That's why, it's revenue.
Well, I'm not interested in that, so.
They ain't charging revenue.
Okay. The,
Go ahead, Mark.
I'm sorry, was there a question?
Chief, I may have missed this, forgive me if I did, but this is 7 new fixed ALPR in addition to what's already?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it is we currently use Flock as our main vendor for this, but Axon has their version of it, and that's what that is.
So will we be replacing the flock cameras, or, because I'm sure those are on a,
Yeah, we would keep the ones we have, and we don't have a lot of them, but this would cancel out the request we were going to have for more Flock cameras.
something that, I did get an email from one of the businesses downtown in regards to what Jay was mentioning. I think it'd be advantageous to do like a little bit of some kind of notice that, hey, we're not selling information, because that's what they were concerned about. They sent us an email saying, hey, we've noticed these cameras. What are we doing with this information? And they started saying, you know, personal property rights and all that kind of stuff. So it'd be good to
Not
possibly.
just not selling, but not mass tracking, not mass,
Correct.
retention, et cetera. Very specific use and very specific circumstances.
Correct.
Not retaining, et cetera. I get that concern, but I also see very clearly the value from
The
a law
value,
enforcement standpoint as well.
Yes.
So,
You mentioned earlier, we had DJI drones. Is that,
Yes, that's primarily what we have been using. So the drones that are requested in this package are made by a company called Skydio, and they are partnered with Axon. There may be some
are they a
co-ownership.
US company?
Completely U.S. manufactured company. Yeah, they're based in the United States and they're built in the United States. We have been put on notice that Chinese-made drones might not continue to be allowed to operate in our country. So I don't think it has been, well, I'm certain that it hasn't been completely eliminated, but we have been getting some communication that that is something that will be continuously considered in the next few years, so.
Because they were gathering information, not necessarily secret. They were gathering it and selling it.
Yeah.
So that but your current annual cost, and this is a proposed annual cost, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And how long is that contract for?
That's a 5-year contract.
And what happens with those assets after the 5 years? Are they
So we would be faced with a decision point, and that's, do we?
buy them out?
Do we,
or-
well, and we will own these products, but the company allows us to basically get credit if we want to start a new contract
Okay.
and get new equipment. Now, one good thing about Axon with this time package here, they replace all of the equipment at year 2.5.
Okay.
So we get new body cams, I mean, everything gets replaced, and then at the end of the contract, you get another new set as well.
Now, what about repairs and service and stuff like that? Is that all?
100% covered
Oh, wow.
during the
Okay,
period.
great.
Yes.
Great.
So getting back to the drone part, this is the meat and potatoes of the extra part of the requested plan. So this would include 2 Skydio X10 drones, not 10, 2, and 2 docks. And that picture on the right, you can see, is a launch dock. And it allows us to deploy those drones off-site through the Fusus platform that I was speaking of a few minutes ago. Axon will assist us in obtaining a COA, which is a Certificate of authorization through the FAA to allow these drones to be launched and flown to their destination without a visual observer involved. We estimate that we'll be able to respond to approximately 20,000 of our 40,000 calls using these drones. Some cities that we have spoken to and have seen them present their program, they're claiming that they literally are sending drones to some calls and not having to send an officer. So again, getting back to the theme that I spoke of at the beginning, efficiency. If there is a way that we could send a drone, for an example, somebody calls and says there's a traffic obstruction at Poinsett in Wade Hampton. You could go ahead and get the drone up like within seconds, and the drone could be on scene to see, is there a car in the middle of the road or not? Well, if it's clear and everything looks perfectly fine, no, cancel the cop. You don't have to send an officer. So there's some great advantages, I think, with efficiency that you can use drones in some circumstances and not even have to send police officers.
Matt?
Yep.
With our proximity to the airport, I know that people who fly these drones on a commercial basis, they're basically, you have to go through licensing and all that. But they also, if they're going to fly, they have to file a flight plan and then ask for authority to get into the airspace from the local FFA, which would be the airport. And sometimes the height is regulated. Maybe they might say you can only go 100 feet.
Yes.
Do we know how, because I do know one of the rules, and you just mentioned it, about now I think a regulation is when you fly your drone, commercial or otherwise, it has to be line of sight. And which is, that's not I don't think it's very practical, but if that rule still exists, you said something about they would help.
Yes. Yep. Thank you. It's called a COA, Certificate of Authorization. This is an FAA program that they have created for first responders. Another term that's used basically parallel to that is a DFR. It's drone as a first responder. And so Axon has experts with their company, and they will help facilitate and be that middleman on behalf of Greer. And they will help establish the predetermined geographic areas that we can fly drones without obtaining the pre-flight authorization. Because right now we do have to file the pre-flight authorization on an app. And so this would basically provide an understood, under these circumstances, FAA would grant us permission to fly under any circumstance in those areas. And we do have Class A airspace all over this area because of GSP. So that does prevent us from flying in certain places, of course, because of the runway and the approaches. But we will be able to fly in a lot of areas of Greer. So this will still be a very valuable tool for us.
Does the Axon program automatically file it, or we're going to still be filing with the app?
So once the COA is established and signed, like the agreement will be in place, we won't have to do that app filing pre-flight.
And who operates that?
So going back to that Fusus platform, so that is a web-based program. So anybody who is logged in, they can launch the drone from that dashboard. And you basically go on the map and you tell it where to go. Additionally, with the officer safety plan, an officer with his body cam can hit a button or tap it 3 times or something like that, and it notifies on the Fusus dashboard requesting a drone.
Okay.
So the person operating the dashboard can say send, and the drone will fly to that location. And then once it arrives, someone can take over and actually specifically direct the drone where it needs to go.
Something we talked a lot about when we did our tour with you of the police station was the existing drones, their range and battery life. Are these comparable?
Yes.
Better?
Yes. So the big drone that we've been using, the DJI drone, it uses 2 big batteries. It has a flight time of approximately 40 minutes. And these 2 Skydio drones will have about a 35 to 40-minute flight time. They say realistically it's more 35, but they have been able to see it fly for 40 minutes. But officers in the field can have batteries. If they needed to set the drone down far away, and once it's out, dispatched to a scene, an officer can just do a hot swap and put the drone right back up, and you got another 35 minutes.
Now, how will the officer that's in the field control it then?
Yep, so you can have someone at headquarters flying it,
Okay.
and you don't have to be out in the field. And they can send, Fusa's platform allows us to send all of the personnel who are working. It's basically comes across as either a text message or email, and they can open up a live feed and see, and that's the advantage of the drone. Because if the drone is going to, let's just say, I'm gonna make up an incident, say a big brawl of people fighting at Target in the parking lot. The drone can be on scene and the officer responding, and it can pop up right there on, or any of the officers, they can see it on their mobile data terminal.
Not while they're driving.
Not while they're driving.
Last question. The 2 docks, are they going to be, do we have locations already assigned for them? Are they going to both be downtown, or are you going to have 2 separate ones?
The initial locations would both be on the police department roof.
Okay.
And we've done some future assessments on, again, it's just preliminary. The new training center would offer another part of the city that we could access if we launched them from there as well. But that would be another request at another time.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. I believe I'm at a good stopping place, so that's what I'll do.
I got
And I'll
one
be ready to
question
answer any
for you.
questions.
Yeah. So how do we shape from a staff perspective, from cities of comparable size? And the reason I ask is, a lot of your asks seem to be more of the reactive, like, 2 communications or, telecommunicators, 1 to detention officer. Those would be on the reactive side. And I know we value community policing here in Greer. Is this $900,000 ask that community component that would supplement us, maybe comparable size of other agencies? Does that make sense? Like,
I thought
City
I
of
was
Florence.
tracking.
Like the City of Florence, if we know that there's comparable size, their police officer, their officers have X amount per population, how are we shaping up here in Greer on that side?
Well, I know the City of Florence, I've spoken to their chief, well, their prior chief, he retired, Chief Heidler, but I believe their population is about 38,000. And I think they have, you're talking about staff size, I believe they have 130 cops, probably.
That's total.
But I will say, it's a different type of community. If you've been to Florence, you might know what I'm talking about. It's, in that part of the state, that's sort of the gathering area for workers, and, it's just a different type of place. I think their crime rate's a little higher than ours, too.
So just kind of looking at everything that we've seen in the presentation, you had a component that talked about all the community outreach that was done.
Yes.
Is any of that stuff at risk? Do you have enough officers to maintain what we've been doing over the past few years?
Well, that's.
And keep those folks dedicated to
Yeah,
the
so
outreach?
they have multiple duties. I mean, they're spending the majority of their time backing up in the schools as well. So they do the community outreach stuff between other things, so they are, they have to spend planning time, when they are not covering schools, because we have people who are always, not at work or something. So they have to help out in the schools. But, so we have, 2 community outreach officers. And, they do a fabulous job. They really cover a lot of ground. And that list I had is really only the list of events that we have created ourselves, but they attend countless HOA meetings and all sorts of other types of special events, veterans events at schools. They're all over the place. So that is not a comprehensive list of all the things they do. It's much bigger than that. But these are the things that we do and create and basically are in charge of in our community.
Yeah, I'm just looking at, you were spending 500,000, we upped it 400,000, that may be what, 8 officers per se? If you had to equate that to a number, or maybe less, I guess if you include, but maybe 4.
I think I'm following where you're
Yeah.
going, Mr. Booker, on this
Yeah.
particular. Your question is do we have enough boots on the ground to continue to operate at the level we're operating in conjunction with these technological investments? The answer to that is, at this time, I think we certainly could always add uniform patrol officers, and there's always going to be a need for more boots on the ground. We're obviously limited, more so, just quite frankly, by the pool of applicants. We are running at a vacancy rate. I think we've got 4 vacant positions now. Cat Presley, is that right? Maybe 5?
Close, yes.
And so the adding positions to the budget inflates the budget when we're already not filling those positions. So the theory behind it is we implement the class and comp, we do these things that are to attract and retain officers, and then possibly coming back to the council in the fall or at some point throughout the fiscal year, if we can become fully staffed and amend the budget to add positions. I think that would be from a mechanical standpoint, how we would want to go about doing that. This certainly does fill a gap. To Chief Hamby's point, eliminating a need for a call by launching a drone is utilizing technology in an appropriate way. But that's not always going to be sufficient, especially in a community as rapidly as ours.
And as the city grows, we are going to have to add cops. I mean, there's just no way around that. But Mr. Merriman we've had those conversations, and, the way he explains about the ability to amend the budget or do overhires in the past, I mean, I get it. If we can't even get fully staffed, and it took me a couple of years to buy into that, but I get it now, so if I can't even fill the roster now, I feel pretty bad about coming to you and say, hey, I can't fill what I need now, but I'd like 5 more on top of that,
To be clear, this is not a lack of support from the administration.
Right.
To say we don't approve. No, this really becomes a function of the math. In this particular case, I would love it for him to be fully staffed and then come back to you and go, he's done a heck of a job getting fully staffed. We need to add more officers. I think that's what we're really talking about, is that ability to get fully staffed and add those officers at the appropriate time. It's just a matter of timing.
I mean, personally, I like the strategy of adding in the technology, but I didn't want to not ask that question if there was a...
Yes, if the only way to add cops was to ask for more cops, I would probably be doing that. But I like the path that's been offered, and I do think supplementing as much as we can with technology to not only make us more effective while we're doing our work, but also hopefully improve efficiency as well.
Now let me be clear, in my mind, that figure where, in essence, we're going from 500,000 almost $1 million, that's a recurring cost?
It is.
We've already been paying 529. We're
Right.
moving to 922 with the addition of these other.
That's really not how technology should help us. The technology, the way I see it, is that you buy this piece of technology, and you pay for that one time, and then that reduces the amount of labor hours needed to do something which frees up that person. I can see now, and I'm just being the devil's advocate here, this technology will, just like that projector, it will continue to cost us money.
Sure.
And because, and to do the same thing. And it won't, there's not going to be I guess the question that I would have to ask and look at is, well, let's just take half that number, 500,000. How many officers can we fund in a year's time? Well, let's just say overtime. I mean,
So let's just say, the delta here between 529 and 922, we've got
yeah,
$375,000. By the time you hire an officer, pay them salary and benefits, equip them, we might get, Chris, 2.5 officers possibly out of that, assuming they can even be hired.
sure.
In this particular case, we know we can put that on the ground and get it operational, because it doesn't depend on the vagaries of attrition or recruitment or whatever. We're buying the equipment.
But it does.
There's software included in it.
Well, but it does, because you've got to have operators for the drones. And we've already said we're short in dispatch, and we're already short with our manpower. So we're going to add technology that's going to, in the way I see it, ask for more labor to operate it, or am I missing that?
So, well, also the technology package, it covers a lot of different areas. It's not just one little item of technology. I mean, we're affecting the body cams, the in-car cameras, the digital storage, which is very costly. Any kind of cloud storage is very expensive. And then these additional things that it does for every cop. So every cop gets touched by this. So every cop gets the help with the translation service, for example. Having the overwatch of the drones helps keeping them safer, actually provides an extra set of eyes on what they're doing. So I think the enhancement of officer safety, but also the fact that these are tools that span across all of our patrol division. If you add 2 or 3 cops, I mean, I'll take them at any time, but at the same, I would not want to do away with some of the technology advantages just to move the needle a little bit, getting a couple of cops. Because when I love cops are wonderful, and we're going to ask for more over time. But keep in mind, we have to buy, it's not just the cop. You have to buy their police car, all of their technology that goes,
Sure.
to do their job.
Well, let me just, and when I asked, was this a cafeteria plan, you said, no, it's a package. And I understand things about the body cameras. We were like the first department around to ever have body cams.
Yep.
Tasers, I think that's great. But when we get into the drone launch systems, all this new technology, let's see, what else was on there? The cameras, some other things. My question about the cost of those is, how many more calls are we going to be able to answer because we implement these pieces of technology?
I would look at it like we're going to have to answer calls regardless.
Yes.
And I think if we have a way to do it in a more efficient manner, that helps maybe in the long run of how many extra cops we have to.
No, I got that, but what I'm saying is, what's the prediction of how many hours is it going to save so your officers can be? I'm not quite. I don't understand. The technology is great and the things you can do with it's great. I understand that, but if you look at it just as what kind of just direct benefit does it have to the officers as far as being able to do their job in a more efficient manner, so that when we're looking at the calls for service as they're going up, we're saying, well, all right, well, we're still at the same amount of sworn officers on the street, but because we've added this, and the increase in call volume hasn't affected the actual officers on the street.
It's a multiplier, though.
Yeah,
There
that's
is-
the way to look at it.
Yeah, there is, and I think one of the things that, to your point is, when we went over to see the Spartanburg center that they've got over there, their package is about twice that much, the one that they have over there. The thing that came out of this, and one of the questions that came up, was your exact question during that, and the explanation was that as a package, when you put all this together, the multiplier factor was how much it was helping those patrol people that were out in the field. And, while you can add so many, 1, 2, 3 patrol officers, what they had found was this increased the efficiency and the effectiveness of those that were working there with maybe it's a multiple of 5. So you got, 1.5 people out there, because now you've got the license plate readers, and you've got information that's coming in on this, on different sorts of things. They showed us 2 or 3 instances where, the drones went in and identified, where somebody was hiding, all those kinds of things. So from their standpoint, they felt like doing twice this much was beneficial for them.
Well, and I see that, but I don't know how to, you say it's a multiplier effect, but what is it multiplying?
Mr. Irwin, I think one way to answer that is this. I think that's a very fair question, because what you're asking for is a quantitative analysis of the effect of this investment for the police department and for the citizens they serve. I don't know that we can absolutely quantify that, but what we can say, when we're talking about the qualitative piece of it, is that it is a force multiplier. And I think that's the difficult piece to explain, is that while we can put metrics on the board about this drone can get 3 miles in 90 seconds and be hovering over something and helping Dorian out on a fire call or whatever, we can provide what it can do and what it's designed to do, but it's only in arrears that you'll look at and go, having that drone in the air saved somebody's life. Having that drone in the air found the little old lady that was lost. Having that drone in the air did what it was needed to do, and we, at the paltry cost of an additional $375,000, not to be flippant about that.
Yes.
It was an investment worth making, and we can only point back to the wisdom of that investment.
Well,
Can I give you some examples of how it, like on a call?
well, we already have a drone. We have drones, small drones, larger drones that we can look for lost people. Listen, I'm not saying this technology is not valuable and that it will not help us do certain things. But I'm going to go back to what I always say is, how does it affect and how does it provide a better service for our citizens? Because we talked about Florence, and then you said the question was asked how many sworn officers they have. I believe they got more than us. They have a less population than us. But then you said, well, but that's a different area, that kind of thing. And so that's the point, that we are different. I'm assuming our crime rate is pretty flat. Is that correct?
A number of calls, no?
Crimes against persons has moved up, has trended up. Crimes against property are trending down. Of course, they are nationally. And then crimes against society have been trending up a little bit.
Yeah, now, and for calls for service, this technology won't reduce those. If we still want to have a officer go out and meet with a person who wants to be met with.
Sure.
So
But he will be wearing new car cameras.
No. Don't get me wrong. I understand that. But if you look at this package, the package is twice as, the list of items is twice as long as the old package, and it's twice as expensive. And I think that listen, don't get me, it's great technology, and I think it can be used and used properly, but I don't want us to invest $1 million a year, because this is recurring.
Sure.
Without, I don't know that we have a starting point. We haven't identified, well, this is what it's really going to do. This is what it's going to, if we had a bunch of crazy cases, and if we said, we've got to have this to either stop that from happening so that we don't have these cases, or to at least help us settle or to resolve the cases. You know, that could be a reason, but I don't know that we have. The thing I'm seeing right now, and you talked about calls for services, I think we have a much bigger need in other parts under the PD umbrella.
And Mr.
Okay.
Haywood, to that point, one of the things that Chief mentioned during his presentation is out of the 41,000 calls for service, that their estimate is that right now, looking at the types of calls of service, that 20,000 of those could be done using drone response.
Are we doing
And-
that now?
Correct?
Well,
20,000?
they could respond to 20,000. Now, as far as like that other topic I was talking about, where they could resolve some calls without an officer having to respond, that's not that 20,000 number. Those weren't the same.
Sure,
Numbers,
but in the example that you gave, obstruction in the road, things like that, you know, that we would send an officer to go check a body because we didn't have the drone to respond, that may be one less call that an officer ever has to arrive at, freeing them up to be able to concentrate on other calls of service that does require a presence.
Okay, point made on all points. You're finished with your presentation at this point, except for questions? Questions?
All right, I got, okay. How many, I hear numbers, national numbers constantly. So what's the national standard for officers per 1,000? Or do you know? If not, you can email me.
So okay, the lowest end that you will usually see is 1.8, and it goes up to 2.8 usually, with most of the departments being between 2.3 officers per 1,000 and 2.8. We're at about 1.46.
So here's the follow-up question to that. And sorry, I'm going along with what you're saying, Paul. I agree that the technology is valuable, but to Jay's point, it's almost $400,000 a year. So we're paying additional, in the span of 5 years, you're paying $2 million for what looks like 3 drones and the computer, basically program, right?
That will be obsolete in 2.5 years. Most likely.
Well, and the good thing about being on that 5-year plan is you get the next.
Yeah.
They upgrade you.
Yes.
So we have the problem with recruiting, and I know a lot of ex-police officers from Greer that have gone elsewhere, and it's almost always due to salary bumps. So obviously, I think that's one of our issues that we have with recruiting. If I were to say to you, hey, how can we fill those 5 positions that you have open? I think there's a pool of people that are willing to be police officers that want to do this as a calling. And we have to attract from that same pool, and we have to be competitive with other police departments right here in our area. And from what I've been told firsthand from officers is we're not competitive with the people right here in our area. So this is $400,000 a year, and we have 100 sworn officers, or 100 in your entire department, right?
75.
75. So it's
Sworn, and then we have another
$6,000 pay bump per year.
So We just had a class and compensation study that the city commenced back in probably last summer or fall. And so the results of that have been implemented and effective on May 30. So
Effective May 30th, and this budget
Yeah.
contemplates full funding of the classic comp this fiscal year. From a competitive standpoint, Mr. Lander, that gets us to that level where the surrounding agencies from which we will be competing, where the playing field is largely level.
Yeah,
So
it
right
was
in line with
impactful.
Greenville City, Greenville County, and
I believe we're in the mix of the middle of both of those agencies. After this plan is fully funded, I think we'll be very, very close.
Greenville
Very
County
close.
Sheriff, they're like number 2 in the state for the highest paid.
Nope, that's not what the sheriff said.
Yeah, I know that's what
He
he
said they're
said.
number 31.
And I know that's fault, that's wrong.
We got a sheriff that lies? Is that what you're saying?
That's what he said.
No, I know that's what he said. I've seen other statistics.
Better lock your doors when you go.
And I've talked to Chief Hamby about this a lot, and this is going to go back to things I've said for a very long time. We've got a recruiter. That's one part of it. But the other part, there has always been, and there always will be, folks from all across our city, staff, that will leave when they are offered more dollars. Generally, those folks are younger, and they don't look at the value of the other parts of their compensation package and things like that. I think it's incumbent upon us as council to make sure it's done, and then on staff to put together a recruitment retention package for all employees. And not just once you get them on board, but what do we do with the actual economic incentives we give them, their retirement incentives that they're given, but the other fringe benefits maybe. I don't know how to explain that, but I get an example would be, used to be the old plants that when it was a holiday, they'd bring all the families in and give them bags of toys. Now, not saying it's what we do to folks, but you got to love on them, right? And Matt and I have talked about that. And not just PD, it's everybody. But in return, you ask, you tell, okay, you're coming to work for the best. We require the best. We're trying to offer you the very best. And then we offer them training and the technology to do their job. And to your point, not just PD, but if public service, generally they've been the department that's always been the low man on the totem pole.
Jay, I've talked to every department, certainly the 3 here, all the big ones since we've been here. Only one department has turnover. Police.
They've always had turnover. So learn your
And we got
history.
to fix it.
So
Well, anyway, what my point was is not just if you blindly raise salaries to reach to compete with Greenville County, I guarantee you that the sheriff next year is going to say, we need more money.
He's
We
going
need
to do
more."
that anyways.
That's right, and it's a race to the top, which you can't win. And if you hit that point where you've won it for a year, you just got everybody else. There's a lot more that goes into recruiting and retaining the employees that we need. And I'm not just talking about PD, I'm talking about entire staff.
I think everyone agrees with that.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I do have one last
Yep.
for me. How about command staff? I think you're short-handed a couple of levels and a bunch of lieutenants.
Well, we're in the middle of making some changes, and part of that class and compensation study, it was the classification part. So they did review the job functions of command staff, and I am very thankful that we had a very solid lady who was assigned to conduct the study on behalf of the company McGrath. She specializes in public safety and has done studies across the country for, I think, decades. So she's studied police departments, sheriff's offices, and she realized right out of the gate that our current titles of captain, those are actually doing the job of a major, and that our current job or job assignments of lieutenants are actually doing the job of a captain. So she knew that, she recognized it right out of the gate, and we have since been, so we've reclassified those jobs effective May 30. So it's not in effect yet, so I'm not calling him major and him major yet, but give me about, 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be calling them different titles. So we're making those adjustments, and I do believe that we are going to need that lieutenant rank still.
Sure.
And we have made room in the new pay grade structure for the lieutenant grade, because as we grow, I've already identified places where we need lieutenants now, the new lieutenant jobs. So I'm very excited about what that opens up for the future.
Who commands a patrol shift today?
So a patrol team is a sergeant, and then they have a corporal who's the second supervisor on each team.
That's all the patrol zones.
Yeah, each patrol team, so we have 5 patrol teams, so there's 5 sergeants. And the lieutenant is, as we speak today, the lieutenant is the division commander, which really in most departments, a lieutenant is a team leader, not a division commander, a captain is. So that we're realigning that, and it should have been done a long time ago, really, honestly.
All right, we're gonna take
One last question, it has to do with the budget, believe it or not. Chief, are we anticipating any revenue out of the training center?
We did not in this budget for any revenue coming in.
But it's a possibility.
It is absolutely a possibility, but we did not contemplate that in this fiscal year, sir.
Okay.
But there
One
will
other
be
question.
cost savings from a training, not having to send, in both agencies, not having to send them wherever, right? I'm
So-
seeing some nodding heads.
Yeah, there are some opportunities to bring in high-level training outfits that will give us complimentary seats as long as we host the facility for the class. So that's pretty standard. So I do think that'll save us hopefully some training dollars, which is a different way to offset expenses. So.
All right, the chief will be around. We're going to take a 15-minute
Okay.
break.
Yeah.